Childhood. It's a word that likely means different things for different people. It can evoke feelings of either joy or sadness, pleasure or pain, perhaps even both. Regardless, it is a word that resonates with us all, a meaning that has helped shape our lives for better or for worse. Our lives are so distinctly our own that at times it can be hard to truly relate to any person other than ourselves, but we are united by common interest, those distinct parts of the puzzle we call life that makes us feel connected and allows us to share a feeling of understanding for one another, be we friends or strangers, even if for only a short amount of time. And it's funny how what would seem such a small part of one's childhood would actually play such a major role in the development of that person. In this series, we're going to be taking a look back at the history of a gamer, selecting a game with special meaning to that gamer, and briefly discussing just what that game means to them. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a game from my past, Maplestory, an online fantasy RPG that I first got into back in 2005. Video games. They've changed us, given us new outlooks on life, whether we choose to belittle the importance of our hobbies or not. They've transported us to other worlds, those which feel living, breathing, on a level entirely their own, and perhaps even far grander than those made solely from pen to paper. And it's through the passion and efforts of those artists, those game creators, those story writers, those music makers, that we're able to engage in something fantastically separate from the shallow restrictions of reality, be it on a smaller, more confined scale, or something truly grand and epic. But when it comes down to it, it's the musical aspect of a game that tends to awaken my senses most strongly, and causes me to feel a nostalgic longing like nothing else can evoke. The visuals are memorable, yes. The gameplay itself, of course, is an integral part of the experience, but there's something about sound that activates the mind and causes those memories I'd not thought on for some time to suddenly rush forth again. As soon as I hear that familiar jingle, I'm immediately there, back in Perion, Sleepywood, wherever the tune I'm listening to belongs. And I'm reminded of the times I shared with my friends, those far-off companions who I'd likely never meet in real life, and yet at the same time were more real to me than anyone else around. It's because we shared those experiences together. We weren't the same, we could never hope to comprehend every single feeling the other shared, but in those moments, we simply understood. And those moments are some of the best in my entire life. It may seem such a silly thing to say that some of the best times in my childhood were those shared with the friends I knew only outside of what may constitute as real life, and I may not be able to accurately express those feelings that come to me whenever I listen to a soundtrack and am immediately transported back to a time where things were simpler, and the only care I had in the world was getting to the next level in a game that was made by the experiences I shared with my friends. But the simple fact of the matter is, that's the reality of the situation. And while I may have taken that for granted at the time, as I'm sure is the case for many during times of youth, thinking back on it now, I realize how lucky I was then, and how thankful I am now for having been able to share in those moments with others I eventually found myself to truly care about. And whenever I listen to a familiar track, I'm privileged enough to journey back to my earlier days and bask in the mood for as long as that music happens to last. I remember the times we'd spend simply hanging around the mystical forest that was Alenia, bright lights shimmering all around us as we conversed over any such thing, real life or in game. Hunting animated mushrooms around the pleasant, peaceful fields of Henesys, passing through the quaint waterside vista that was Lith Harbor, and even huddling outside the sewers of Kerning City, waiting for our turn to activate that area's party quest so that we could engage in yet another new and thrilling experience. I'd wake up and immediately get excited at the prospect of embarking on another adventure with my friends, no matter how small. The fact that it existed solely in a virtual realm did nothing to deter my feelings of excitement. Simply knowing that every morning I'd be able to wake up and revisit that old familiar world that meant so much to me with the friends I cared so much about was enough. The way games were back then, it made you wait, which gave you the space to sit back and truly take in the beauty of the world around you, losing yourself in the game's atmosphere. It wasn't about where you were going, but the steps it took to get there. The rush of racing forth to the soaring ship that would whisk you away to a new land, and the thrill of making it to the docks just in the nick of time, allowing you to catch the boat to Orbis, an entirely new world outside of the familiar setting you'd come to call home. And in that moment, when you'd finally witness the ship depart and bring you and all the others enjoying the experience into the vast and open skies, you realized that something special was happening. You were embarking on a new chapter, and while that chapter may seem so incrementally insignificant to anyone outside of your own personal journey, to you, in that moment, it meant the world. And that is feeling nostalgic. Thanks for watching.